Welcome to our live lecture. My name is Billy Barnett. I know I gave an intro last week, but I want to welcome you to week 2 for Psychology of Play. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're enjoying the class. I logged in a different way today, and now I've lost all of my backgrounds that I used to have, so I have to go fix that later. But anyway, it's the Golden Gate Bridge behind me, I guess, instead of Full Sail. So I'd like to give you a little bit about my background, and then I want to go into the discussion board and the quests and stuff so that we can get that stuff as our beginning for how we do our class today. And then we'll move on to some of the content. So I am a licensed mental health counselor. My wife, Lauren, she is a speech therapist. And so we have 2 kids, Elizabeth and William. I do counseling in the evenings when I'm finished with Full Sail. And my wife does speech therapy all week. Right now, we are doing most of our work online from home. And before being a counselor, I did a couple of other things. I did photography for about 15 years professionally. I still shoot a little bit, mostly just for myself. I played the drums for about 10 years before that. And I stuttered for most of my life, at least the first half. And I ended up overcoming my speech issues from playing the drums, which is kind of cool. And then went on to marry a speech therapist. Kind of random or intentional, depending on your take of things. And so basically, most of my teaching philosophy revolves around overcoming stuff that's really difficult in life. And so the other part of my story is I struggled quite a bit in college. I was suspended twice for bad grades because I was having a very difficult time with my academics, mostly centering around math. And so anyway, a whole lot of what I do is based on overcoming challenges in life based on, man, it looks like you guys are having a hard time with bandwidth, huh? So does anybody see the screen clearly? Hopefully it'll come through clear on the recording at least. Shouldn't be too much of a connection issue on my end. I got screaming fast internet. Okay. All right, what a bummer. I'm sorry about that. Well, as long as you can hear me, should be good. Those letters are really tiny anyway. So you won't really need to read all that stuff. Basically, I'm telling you, my teaching philosophy is about overcoming difficult things, and the stuff that you aren't awesome at, you can become a professional in. And that's what I get out of being a therapist and a teacher. So my job is to help you guys overcome whatever issues you experience during the month. And so there you go. So I want to encourage you to reach out to whoever your instructor is, whether it's me or one of the others. We work very closely in alignment about how we do everything. And so if there's anything keeping you from reaching out to your instructor, please know that it's not our desire to make it difficult for you to succeed. We try to make sure we give you guys any help that you need. So that's who I am, that's who we are. So be sure to take advantage of the philosophy that we all share together as instructors to help you guys out. So I'm going to turn off my video. That might help some of the bandwidth issue. So that'll be good. All right. Kids get a little older as the photos go along, but I keep staying the same age. So in week 2, we're going to be doing a couple of things. We're going to talk about the brain. We're going to talk about positive psychology. One of the things I want to invite you guys to, if you would like to ask a question, you can certainly unmute your microphones. That's an okay thing. So if you feel like you would like to, share whatever is on your mind, that's okay. There's 2 ways really that we can do it. I can unmute everybody and it would be chaos, or I could just invite you guys to unmute yourself if you would like to contribute that way. And it'll totally be okay to do it if you would like to. I find that makes it a lot more of a classroom kind of experience, and then it should be fun. So let's do this. Let's go watch a video real quick. The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to put the link into the chat box. And if you go click on the link in the chat box, it'll load the video for you. If I play it on my screen and then try to have you watch it through my screen, I get all kinds of copyright stuff going on with YouTube. And so I'm going to put this in the chat box for you. And if you'll go click it and watch it, let me know when you're finished. All right, looks like you
I'm
guys
done.
finishing up. Thank you very much. Finishing with the video. Cool. You know, I totally remember that I said I was going to go through the homework, but I got sidetracked by you guys having a hard time looking at my screen. Um, so the gist of this is that we are wired to be able to be very active throughout the day while we are learning. And so exercise is a way that the brain takes advantage of itself and the abilities that it has. And so since we are, you know, wired to be able to be walking all day, a lot of our, you know, top functionality for how we learn is tied to exercise. And so that's a pretty cool idea. This comes from the brain rules. And so there's several different brain rules in that book. And this is one of them. Before we get too much further, let's go bring up the discussion board. Let's see. There we go. All right. Hope you guys are able to see this. So here we go. A couple of things to know about. First off, the call to play is due tomorrow, or due today. Today's Tuesday. Due tonight at 11:59. When you go in and work on this, remember they're really just questions about you. So you do not have to know anything about the reading material. You can just go ahead and start working on these questions if you have not already done so. I know some folks like to watch the lecture and then start on the work because they feel like it's a better workflow for them. And that's totally, you know, understandable. But we do want to make sure that you get this done tonight, if you haven't, so that you have time to go work on your discussion board. And so, did the downtime already happen for FSO? I do not know. I am having a hard time getting on Safari. I keep getting knocked out on Safari, and so I'm in on Firefox today. And so I might have to call over to support because I can't figure out why I'm getting knocked off on Safari. And so I have updated my stuff, and I need to figure out what else it could be. So I'm seeing you guys say that it was already down. So hopefully it is updated and ready to go. So anyway, call to play is due tonight. Call to play is designed to not be tricky. It's designed to just get you aware of what we're working on each week. And so you will see in the call to play at the bottom, we have our quest infographic here. And we're going to go through each one of these things, but I'm going to go look at it from the discussion board while I am showing you. And so this is where you're going to go, just like last week. So there's a couple of things here to know. First off, you are going to be doing your quests and you're going to be putting them on your discussion board initial post, just like last week. The whole thing is just like last week, except the information is updated about what the quests are. And you're going to be talking about week 2 concepts instead of week 1. And so first thing we'll do is you click on the orange here, and it takes you right back to that infographic talking about the quests. And so quest 1 is called Get Connected. And here you're going to be organizing an online meetup with family or friends. You're going to play a game or watch a movie or catch up on the latest gossip. But you're going to be creating and turning in an infomercial or presentation using screenshots or video clips from your online meetup discussion, or your online meetup, discussing the emotional benefits of online social connection. So one of the things that I noticed is we've got a thing over here that you can use. It's just questions that are designed to help increase closeness, right? And so you're not going to be turning these questions in. You don't have to. It's not necessarily designed for that. These are what we provide to you so that you have something to talk about if you don't yet know what you want to talk about with your friends and family. And so these are like every interview question you could ever want to know. But you don't have to use these necessarily. And so, but that's what you'll see in there. But what you're going to be turning in is an infomercial or a presentation using screenshots from when you were hanging out with your friends. And so the thing that you're going to be turning in is basically like a slide, or you could do a Adobe Spark. You could do screenshots. You could do video, but you're going to be basically turning in something talking about the emotional benefits of online social connection. And so since we're doing this whole, life is very different under a pandemic. And so I know I generally teach on campus at this time of year, and I'm teaching online. I love teaching online, and it's what I do most of the time. And so the pandemic has only made it so that I've gone from working at the office to working from my home. And so in order to be social, I'm doing Zoom meetings with my parents so that my kids can meet up with my parents. And so there is a great benefit to be able to do these online meetups. And so we're trying to find ways to get around barriers physically. And so this is just designed to be able to overcome that hurdle of not being able to be together. And so you're going to create a presentation talking about the benefits of online social connection. So a slide or, some kind of video presentation, you can do screenshots and just put them together on a page, but you're going to be just talking to us or to your, consumer about why is online meetup an emotionally good thing. Cool. So that's quest 1. Quest 2 is the weekly plan, and we have this every week. I do want to show you the weekly plan has a file here, and you want to come open this up. If you are not able to open this up, you want to go to our troubleshooting and resources activity, because in that activity, you can get a copy of Microsoft 365. Do you have to have audio in your presentation? No, I don't believe you do. So for the weekly plan, you want to fill in three items every day for work, 1 item every day for play, 1 item every day for fit, and 1 item every day for push. And so I think Megan went through this last week, but basically we want to have you fill in this document. And so this is just a very basic way to do structure so that you can increase or track how effective your time is. But the real kicker here is we have you're scheduling in time every day to do something fun, and that's a big part of this class. So be sure to fill in all the boxes. I know if you don't want to do 2 days with me, that's totally okay. I figure you're allowed to have 2 days per week to yourself where you're not documenting school things. But it's not necessarily meant to be just school things. It's meant to be your life. And so I'm pretty sure you live every day. And so it would be a good thing to fill in all of those days. But if you choose not to, I don't count off if students turn in 5 days. So that's the weekly plan. Any questions on that? You can do this any week. All right. Quest number 3, learn a new skill. Choose an activity you've never done before that requires repetition for improvement. Something like juggling or doing a cartwheel, drawing a cartoon, playing a musical instrument, dribbling a basketball, stuff like that. And then practice this activity over the course of several sessions. And what you're going to turn in is document yourself practicing on video and describe how your perception of the activity changed over time. So you're going to turn in a video on this. You're going to talk about your perception of the activity and how your perception changed. Like, I know if I learned how to juggle, I think that's pretty stinking cool. And so I would document the pretty stinking cool process of becoming a juggler. Cool. I used to play the drums, and so I would document playing the drums and getting better at it and describing, how my perception changes. Can it be pictures for the learn a new skill? I'll tell you this, because it's telling you to turn in a video, I would tell you to, check with your instructor. If it's me, it's totally fine. Because the idea here is we want you to describe how your perception changes, but like if the directions say to do it in a video, trying to do it with images sends a message to your instructor that you're changing the directions. And so unless you check with us, we want to make sure you're turning in a video. Yeah, because like it shouldn't be super hard to, we don't want you to be doing things that are so difficult that you have to, not be able to do it on video. So whenever we designed this one, the idea was to make it a video. If I have a student that tells me they would like to do it with images, those are one of the ways that I am flexible with my students. And so I'll generally say yes to that answer. But I can't speak for all the other instructors. So if anybody wants to do pictures on this one, just send a quick message to your instructor and ask if you can do that by pictures instead. They'll let you know. Quest number 4 is press play. Select one of the Psychology of Play podcasts and listen to it and reflect on your takeaways. And so you're going to create an infographic or presentation highlighting the points that resonated with you. Must include visuals to accompany text. I gotta see my messages here. I'm getting a couple of messages from students. Can you have a video talking about how you feel about it, and then have a video how hard it was, and a last video that you're doing it. Yes, if you want to do 3 different videos of you talking about how it's going, that's totally fine. Like if you don't want to, so for quest number 3, it's a good question. If you're doing learn a new skill and you want to do a video where you talk to the camera talking about your experience, that's totally fine. If you don't want to, show us the activity of you learning to do that stuff, that's okay. You can turn in a video of you talking about it before, during, and after, and how it changed. That's totally fine. I draw, but not creatures. Could I try to learn to draw a creature even though I've drawn before? Yes, definitely. If you're trying to draw something that you've never drawn before, that's okay. Okay, quest 4, press play. This is, you're going to go watch or go listen to one of our podcasts, and you're going to create an infographic or presentation highlighting the points that resonated with you. And we want it to include visuals and text. And so basically, if you are doing quest 4, when you look in the directions here, number 1, letter C, when you click here, it takes you to the podcasts. And so you'll go listen to one of our podcasts. And you'll see The podcasts are down here. And so here you go. Number 6 is awesome. I know that because I did it with my friend Monica. So you'll come here and watch or listen to one of the podcasts, and then you're going to make an infographic about the content. And so we do want you to do something visual to go along with it. So you can do things like you can draw something, you can pull stock images. Anything that you choose to do here that's visual is totally fine. Because you're creating an infographic or a presentation. And so you're going to have something go on that infographic, like this document is an infographic. It's a document meant to teach you something, but it's got visual elements in it and a whole lot of text going on. And so if you were doing, something on the anxiety podcast, you could, make an infographic about anxiety, some things that are suggested in the podcast to overcome anxiety, and just things that resonated with you, and just some way to convey that you were listening to that podcast and you know what we were talking about. That's what you're looking for there. Can the infographic be in a presentation form? Yes. And I know this because it says create an infographic or presentation highlighting the points. So any kind of presentation form is cool. Like you can make it a slideshow, you can make it a slide, you can make your slide be the infographic. I know that Spark would work for this. Cool. Any questions about the stuff on this infographic? I'm going to go flesh out some of the directions a little bit more from the main page. So as you're working on your discussion, some students are very focused on the quests, and the quests are, they're a big deal. But the quests are 25 points of the grade. The quests are not the majority of the grade. They're a small portion, essentially. And so we don't want you to get too hung up on making these quests and then not get the better part here. Because what we want you to do is write 3 paragraphs here in your initial post. And so the first essay is question number 2. Which 2 quests did you choose, and describe your experience? Some students just write down, I chose quest number 1 and 2. And then they go on to question 3. But there's a second part to the question about describing your experience. And so be sure to write your full paragraph for question number 2, having it be 5 or 6 detailed sentences like it says up here in the requirements. So your second paragraph is about the reading content for week 2. And so how do your quest experiences connect back to the reading material? Define at least 2 concepts from this week's readings. And so here we give you some ideas about what the readings were about: neuroplasticity, perma, flow, creative blocks, so on and so forth. And then you're going to describe how each concept related to your quests. Please underline the course concepts that you chose, because it makes it easier for us to tell where they are. And it helps us to know that you know what those terms are because you underlined them. And so you're going to write 5 or 6 sentences about the reading material, and you're going to put 2 concepts from week 2 reading in that paragraph. And then question 4 is explain how completing these quests impacted your well-being. So you're going to write 5 sentences on how the quests impacted your well-being. And so your initial post is going to be 3 full paragraphs of information. It's going to contain at least 2 concepts from the reading. and then you're going to attach your 2 creative files for your quests below that. Cool. So the initial post is supposed to be due Thursday. And so what you'll see is that you have the opportunity to turn that initial post in late if you choose to. You would normally get 10 points off if you submit your initial post after Thursday. But you can make 3 response posts instead of 2 if you choose to do your initial post between Thursday and Sunday. And so one of the things you need to know is your response posts need to be at least 5 sentences long. And so sometimes we get students who just write 1 or 2 sentences for their response post, and those would not be a full credit response. So if you do your initial post on time, you're going to do 2 response posts of at least 5 sentences. If you do your initial post between Thursday and Sunday, you're going to write 3 response posts of at least 5 sentences. Let me give you some ideas here about how to develop a response post with the RISE model. Here are some tips for grading. How are we doing so far? You guys with me? Cool. I try to make sure that I really develop what the requirements are for these discussion boards. And so I might spend a little more time going through it than what other instructors would do. But in week 2, you've already gotten 1 discussion board done, so you kind of know what's up. And I want to make sure that you get a really good demonstration that what you need to know is in there. And my job is to point you to where the requirements are. And so I hope this is helpful for you. Here's the rubric that we use for grading your assignment. And so if you meet the initial deadline on Thursday, or you do 3 response posts, that's worth 10 points. It's 15 points for writing the 3 paragraphs. Question number 3, those 2 reading concepts, those reading concepts are worth 20 points. And so that's why we emphasize that. Your deliverables are worth 25 points. Those are your quest files. And then your 2 responses are worth 20. And then we have a 10-point indicator for grammar and spelling. And so that is, once you do your call to play, that's what the rest of the class is this week as far as what you're turning in. And so one of the things that I think is great to do, this is what I was wanting to say earlier. So in my class, nobody has yet made an initial post, which is fine because it's Tuesday. But what I would do is I would come in here if you're, wanting to know how's it going, check in here and look at what everybody else is doing on their initial posts. And that gives great insight to what other students are doing. And sometimes, some of those questions that you may have, other students may have already answered by demonstrating to you what they've done in their post. And so take advantage of the opportunity to come in here and see what others are doing before you make your initial post. And it would be a great help and a great confirmation that you're probably doing it the right way. And seeing other people doing it sometimes is a great helper for me whenever I want to know what a good discussion board looks like. You can generally go in there and see them. And so by tomorrow night, you'll start seeing some initial posts. And then on Thursday, you'll start to see a lot of initial posts. Oh, one more thing. One of the things that I would recommend doing is write your initial post out on a separate document, because if you do your initial post on a separate document, you have it to go back to develop your ideas on, and you can save it. what happens is sometimes students will write their initial post right into the box on the platform. And sometimes these platforms crash, or sometimes your internet goes out. And so in order to make it so you don't get frustrated, I think one of the best things you can do is write your initial post on a separate document and then copy and paste it right into the box on the platform when you're ready to go. That way, if the platform crashes or something happens, you've got that to fall back on. And so it's always a good idea. All right. That is the week 1 discussion board. Pretty good. Yes, it also helps with grammar and spelling because there is a spell checker built into those Microsoft programs. Also in Pages. All right. Yep, and when you copy and paste, make sure you take a look at it. Sometimes the formatting does get wonky when you go from one document to another or one platform to another. It's cool. Okay, man, oh man, that was a whole lot of stuff. But hopefully that whole lot of stuff is going to be helpful for you so you don't have to spend time trying to see if you're doing it right. So in week 2, we talk about optimism and pessimism. And so optimism is the tendency to expect the best possible outcome or find the most hopeful aspect of a situation. Optimism is looking for the glass half empty or half full. Which one? Half full, yes. It's like the silver lining in the clouds. And then there's pessimism, right? Pessimism is the tendency to see the worst possible outcome or find the negative aspects of a situation. So glass half empty, there you go. I hope you surround yourself with people who are optimistic, you know. Sometimes I feel a little bit pessimistic as a counselor because I hear people's problems all day and I hear people try to convince me that things are horrible in their lives. And it's like they want permission for there to be, you know, hopelessness. And that's kind of a bummer. And so I have to really, really talk myself up on optimism. I have to find a way to recharge my batteries on a positive outlook. And ironically, the tendency that you identify with will be the one that you see when you look back at life. So I have a question for you. Do you think there are benefits to pessimism? I see a no. A couple of yeses. You need a balance. Yes, Thomas. It's more like realism. Yeah. Especially if we are not necessarily looking at both sides. You need a balance in life. That's right. Yep. Right. And so that's what we're actually getting at in our reading is if we are always focused on optimism, it sells well, you know. But because there are so many other factors in reality that seem to complicate things, we've got to be able to judge what the healthy balance is between optimism and pessimism. We don't really talk about boundaries very much, but I think boundaries are the best guidelines or the best check on how optimistic can you be if you want to be an optimist. Your boundaries in life very much determine how much you get hurt or burned. And so that pessimism that I was talking about that people, bring to me in counseling sessions, typically that's from a lack of boundaries. And so we're really getting into perceptions here. And so that's what I need to kind of reinforce before I move on, is the perception that you have, very much is involved with whether you are an optimist or a pessimist. And so it's good to be able to examine, the, causing factors behind when your perception is not the way that it is. And so being able to, look at what were the things that were happening to cause a situation to go badly when you were really thinking it was going to go well, that's a perception thing. Or if things are, great and you think they're horrible, there's a perception thing that could be causing an issue there. And so we do want to encourage you to look at your perception and ask yourself questions. Hey, is my perception here based in reality? Is my perception here based on evidence? And so if it is, then, I'm being cautious because I don't want to get hurt. And so I'm either being cautiously optimistic or cautiously pessimistic. And caution is generally a good thing to have. And so week 2 is where we do this work because we're going to get into positive psychology. A lot of the positive psychology might seem kind of like sunshine and lollipops. And so optimism is what that's all about. And so as we're doing the positive psychology talk that we're going to get into here in a minute, optimism is a large part of that. And you may be thinking of optimism as you're hearing about positive psychology. And so we are not wanting you to think that you should only be optimistic. We are advocating for a healthy balance and being able to look at your perception as being involved in that. So let's think about brains for a minute. This comes from the brain reading. What forms of play are good for our brains? Music, yeah. Exercise, definitely. Something physical, puzzles, cool. Reading, yep. Words, more puzzles. Walking, yep. Playing is the best form of play. Board games, I have to confess. Meditation, cool. It was a trick question. What forms of play are good for our brains? All forms of play are good for our brains. I'm going to show you a little video of me getting thrown under a bus. My buddy Terrence, he's a chess guy. He had to do he was doing a tryout for a TV show. And he needed somebody to beat at chess. And so I'm pretty easy to beat at chess. I know how to move the pieces and I know what is legal and not. But Terrence is pretty good. He is he runs our chess club. He runs it, from Full Sail, but I think it's the Orlando Chess Club. So the brain rule here from that Brain Rules book is that our brains change over time. So what we're getting into here is this concept of neuroplasticity. And it's basically a question of wiring. And what you do and learn in life can physically change your brain. And this is a really cool thing here. It's the changing of the structures and function and organization of the neurons or nerve cells in response to new experiences. As we learn, our brains make connections between neurons. As we gain new experiences and information, our brains reroute their own circuitry for improved functioning. The neural connections are the fabric of our brains. So there's a little video in here. I believe this video is in the reading, so I will skip it. But so basically, this is the brain's ability to wire itself or rewire itself. And I don't know if you guys are as into this as I am. I knew a young lady in high school who was in a car accident, and she got hurt really badly. And so she was in a coma for like 6 months. And I experienced, time watching her regain her abilities. And so this is why neuroplasticity is really important to me, because I watched her learn how to do, things that she was not able to do. So I learned, seeing her, like her left side was shut down. And so she was able to rehabilitate her left arm and her left leg. And she was able to learn how to, fix her speaking again. And a lot of her, communication was really impacted. And so it was interesting to see her, inhibited in her ability to speak and then getting those functions back. And all of these are due to the fact that our brains have the ability to rewire itself. And I want to kind of show you, I know this picture is in your book, but basically each one of these, nerve endings or the synapses in your brain, they have the ability to move over closer to a next door neighbor. So each one of these long stems creates a circuit from one synapse to the other. And when they're damaged, they can no longer connect, but they have the ability to find other synapses that are in close proximity, and they'll make a connection to one that they previously did not have in order to compensate to get that ability back that it is designed to achieve. And so it reroutes the circuitry by taking advantage of the nearby synapses. And so the electricity that was stopped because the link was broken, it will grow over to a different synapse and establish a connection in order to get that function back. And when you have so many to, use, it's got the ability to do that. And so our brains are constantly changing over time. And one of the ways that the brain changes is if it's damaged, it has the ability to heal itself. So more memories are also connected. So memory is more complicated. I would say that it is in some ways, yes. In some experiences, yes. We're really talking about functions that are stopped. The brain has the ability to rewire, to relearn those skills. And this is, it's a very fragile system. It's not foolproof by any means. Sometimes those abilities are so damaged that they're not able to heal. But to the ability that the brain has the ability to, if it's not super damaged, it has the ability to move those neurons over to reestablish connection if there is room. When you're talking about experience, sometimes the things in our mind are protected. It's not necessarily a neuron fabric thing. It has more to do with a subconscious thing. And so some of the things the brain keeps us from remembering as a form of self-preservation. And so neuroplasticity is not designed to overcome that necessarily. It is designed to overcome a wound in the brain. And so, you know, some of this is very, I guess, entry level. And so more like aerial view statements. Yeah. But suffice it to say, neuroplasticity is the ability that the brain has to reroute the circuitry with close by neurons. And so that's what neuroplasticity is. And so part of it is there are other systems going on too in the brain. So while some of these are biological and material, like in the organ of the brain, some of them are very much based on I want to say perception, but memory. Those are the things that there's a lot more going on. You may have the ability, you know, physically to recall things, but your brain may tell you, you know what, I don't want to, so we're not going to. Or you may be telling your brain, I want you to wall that off and put it behind a wall. And so neuroplasticity and that are a little bit different. Right, so we're getting into like what's trauma. And so trauma is a little bit different. Like there is obviously trauma when your brain is physically damaged, but trauma does not have to only be physical damage. Trauma can come from memories only and experiences. But you do have the ability to rewire physically. And so there is also an accompanying process in how we process trauma. And so I'm a trauma therapist. And so I do a whole lot of work on the conceptual layer of how do you work through trauma by encouraging and challenging people to process what happened. This is the brain's physical route of doing that on the neuron or synapse level. Yeah, that's a totally complicated, different thing though, and probably a little bit too much for today. The more senses we can integrate into our learning, the better chance we have of holding on to that information. And so why is it important to understand how the brain works? Obviously for a whole lot of reasons, but the one we're getting at here is you have to know how something works before you can fix it. And so kind of like what we were just getting at, when there's damage to the brain, like there's a physical path to healing. And so how the neurons heal themselves, there's on the cellular level, there are these little, you know, connections that happen on a physical level. On the experience side or on the psychological side, there's a lot of conceptual stuff going on. And so when you're processing events, it requires you to have courage and awareness and facing past events and seeing yourself as healable. And that view of yourself as also able to be healed is the psychological layer of that. Cool? All right, let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break. I'm gonna get some water. I would encourage you to take 5 minutes. You know, one of the things I can do is I'm gonna unmute everybody's microphones. And if you would like to mute yourself, that's totally okay. But I'm gonna unmute everybody and I want you guys to be able to have some free time to just hang out and chat and get to know each other. After 5 minutes or so, I'll come back in and see how you guys are doing. You are totally free to mute your microphone if you would like. I'm gonna turn them all on. It's probably gonna be chaos. but I want to give you guys the opportunity to have some time to hang out with each other. Cool? So let's take 5 minutes, and then I'll come back in a little bit.
Oh.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, everybody.
What up, Full Sail?
Hey.
Where you at?
Toledo, Ohio. Ohio.
Virginia.
Representing the
Detroit.
504, New Orleans.
Okay.
All right, New Orleans.
Good side.
Michigan.
Michigan?
All right.
I ain't
Detroit.
too far from there.
I'm from Toledo. I'm like,
Duval in the
I'm in
house.
Toledo too. Hey, girl.
How about the good old state of Texas?
Hey, Texas here.
Everything's bigger in Texas, they told me.
Ooh, you better stop it.
Yeah, Connecticut here. All right.
I never been.
Everybody.
Hello, Connecticut, East Coast.
Yes.
Now, hold it down.
We here.
So what everybody major?
Computer animation here.
Computer animation.
Game design.
Digital.
Music production.
Creative writing.
Nice,
Right.
nice.
What do you want to do with creative writing?
Write screenplays,
Ooh,
Yeah.
movie scripts,
Dope.
things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
it's nice.
That's dope.
Nice.
Oh, that's me. I'm sorry. I got kids. My kids in the background. I'm sorry about that. 5-year-old and 2-year.
I'm feeling
Don't
the
worry.
orange.
Like, why is she pointing? I'm telling them to clean their room up.
I'm in the middle of work doing all this, so forgive me if you hear noise.
No, I'm doing homework. I'm finished doing like the 8 questions, the test questions. So, what do y'all see yourself at the full cell?
Hopefully employed.
That's a good answer.
Employed and not broke.
walking on water.
Right, express.
Okay, Jesus.
Yes, Lord.
Walking on the red carpet.
Hopefully with my
Where?
own production company.
That's right. Me too. Express the passion.
I just want to do my own like record company. I don't want to work for nobody. I just want to get talent that people don't want to hear and bring new talent to a new genre of music.
That's
So
nice.
Awesome.
That's nice. I like that.
I don't want to see like I want to be a rapper, rock star. I don't want to be like, or she a rapper or she a rock star. I want to have a new line.
You want to
a
be
new-
you.
Basically, you trying to create a new subgenre.
Yes.
Here we
I'm
go.
trying to bring a new. I'm trying to bring the funk. I'm trying to bring the bull. So I want to bring a new genre up that nobody is not doing. Everybody doing the same thing. Like it's different artists I saw on IMG and Facebook and how they music videos is like so unique and so different. It's mind blowing. I feel like they're not into the clout they need. So yeah.
Co-create.
There's a lot of talented underground artists out here.
Almost definitely.
So I wanna open my own record company up. I didn't want to do Def Jam, but I felt like I don't want to be just like any other rapper or any other artist. I want to do something.
Spit something. Come on, let's hear it.
Right, now I want to hear something.
Freestyle. Let's hear what you got. Just throw something down.
Yeah, just throw some.
Spotlight.
Keep it clean. Let's go. Keep it clean. Roll.
Keep it clean.
She can't keep it clean. Nope. It ain't gonna be clean.
Hell no.
That's why she's struggling. She trying to think of something.
Come on, you want
No,
a
it's
spot?
not that. Just give me 3 words. words. Give me 3 words.
Oh, boy.
And I could speak some.
Design,
Down.
design, create, and passion. Design,
Okay,
create,
write
and
it
passion.
down. Write that down so I can look at it.
I like
Okay.
that.
Design.
You said
Ready?
design.
There's one. Create and passion.
See,
you
I'm
go.
passionate about anything I do. I make a wild imagination. They call it creation, but I call it designing of my art. They call me Bedrock, BEDDROCC for Flintstones. I make creation that nobody never saw. I call it Mona Lisa. But Mona Lisa is the place I live and I desire. I ain't talking about that Mona Lisa you call in the art gallery. Oh, I'm finished.
Good job.
Hey.
Good job. That's very good.
Round of applause.
Poetry. So it's like it's easy to.
Where is my...
So, is anybody having any trouble in like the work or?
Yeah.
I think I struggle in like the questions. I think I overthink it a lot.
I struggle with week 1.
You said what?
I struggle with week 1. Yeah. Because the instructions seem simple. It's just when it comes to putting stuff together, like.
That's why I think I over process it. Like I overthink the whole.
Yeah.
Dang,
I'll be the
yes.
same way.
Yeah, you can't overthink it. I personally, for me, I don't know how old everybody else is or everybody, journey is, but this is my 3rd degree.
Oh,
So I already have 2 degrees.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Nice.
for me, I tell you now, don't overthink it. I started overthinking yesterday, like last week's assignment, and I was like, this is ridiculous because I know I'm overthinking it. Like I've been through school 2 other times. I have a master's and all that stuff, and I was like, I'm overthinking. I think you only overthink it when you truly want it,
Yeah.
Because if you didn't truly want it, you just kind of like, oh, I can just do it. And I was like, but this is what I truly, I truly want this. So I started overthinking. I don't think sometimes you have to look at what's the simplest because I think that's where the creativity comes from the most.
Yeah.
If you think that the simplest thing, it takes your mind in 10 different places because you can always build on simple. You can't necessarily build on hard.
I feel like it took me 20 places and I almost didn't submit my thing. I was almost late. Why I said I was like open. I'm like, after I submitted my paper, I'm like, I overthink the whole thing. It was super simple. And I felt like I put too much thought and too much time and too much effort. And then trying to get the kids together and make them go to bed, I felt like I was just under pressure, just overthinking it. It took all them time thinking. And I was wasting time thinking, and it was super easy. So, yeah.
Well, y'all, we were all designed by an amazing creator that designed us all. That's why we're here. We're not at some regular school. We're here because we have the ability to co-create with the King, right? He wants us to bring glory to whatever it is that we do.
Amen.
And y'all just I just pray blessings over all of y'all. Just keep on pushing forward. Don't give up. That's the main thing. Don't stop. Don't quit. And just there's going to be lots of obstacles in doing this online. Lift you guys all up. I can't wait to see what all y'all do here.
Thank you.
Man, I love what you guys are experiencing in the time to hang out. I think it's important for you guys to have time to be able to do that. Plus my voice needs a break. Cool. All right, let's knock out this last bit. We're going to talk about positive psychology. Again, if you would like to speak, go ahead and unmute yourself at any point and let me know. Try to keep it related to what we're talking about, and that'll be good. Because I do want you to feel like this is not just my time to talk to you, but it's your time to talk to all of us also. So please feel free to do that if you like. We're going to talk about flow, positive psychology, wellness or well-being, and also PERMA. Kind of like I said, the kids are getting older each time I get a new picture up. So this is pre-pandemic trip to Disney, and my kids hanging out doing art. Yay, art. So we're going to look at positive psychology. As we do that, I'm going to just sort of put a contrast for you between regular psychology and positive psychology. Let me show you real quick. Bring my video up. Do this. I have two books. I don't know if they'll let me. There we go. This is the DSM. This is the regular psychology manual. And so when I was learning to be a therapist, I had to learn everything in it. And this is basically a drug manual. It's called the PDR. And so this is the manual that talks about the intention behind all of the psychologically used medicines, psychotropics, and it gives all of the side effects and like dosages. And so I had to learn about all of the medicines that psychiatrists prescribe when I was a counselor in a specialized therapeutic group home, because I had to translate to all of the logistical providers for the kids that I worked with. I had to justify their treatment, and that meant I had to know what the medicines were that the kids were on and what those medicines did and how are they being helpful. And so between the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders, and then putting that together with the medicines, I had to know a whole lot more than I was initially trained to know about. And so I had to become really educated in a very short period of time about all of the parts that went into treatment on the medical side, in addition to treatment on the psychological side. And so as a result of that, I learned a whole lot about how to diagnose and how a lot of people are misdiagnosed by other therapists, which is sad to me. That's one of my things that like I do not want to, further. I want to make the right diagnosis, the least restrictive diagnosis. And so I had to learn what other therapists diagnosed my kids with. Did they see it right? Was there an easier diagnosis? And so at one point, I had 3 kids who were diagnosed with schizophrenia. None of them had schizophrenia. But that's what counselors are trained to see, because they see confusion, and then they diagnose confusion as schizophrenia. But the confusion was not on the part of the clients, the confusion was on the part of the therapists. And so I see that a lot. And so I want to put together a contrast for you between regular psychology and positive psychology. Cool. I'm glad you guys are with me so far. Yeah, they say that schizophrenia is a really vague area. It is. It's only vague because therapists don't know what it is. Yeah, there are a lot of therapists who diagnose. I'll say this. We're going to get into the history of psychology and how we do understand much better today how to do diagnosing and treatment, I'll tell you, you know, a lot of people have the licensure to diagnose at my level. I have a master's degree and a license to counsel, and so I'm okay to diagnose. My diagnosis is what is the foundation of my treatment. And so there are some therapists who only diagnose like 3 things because they've only really been trained to see 3 things. And so it's a lack of education in what is being presented that really causes a lot of misdiagnosis. And so, so before World War II and World War I, psychology was really focused on good stuff. It was focused on identifying our skills and like charting growth and becoming better people, basically. Psychology's goals were basically aspirational in nature. They were like wide open. It was looking for, you know, strengths, looking for talent, looking for things to build and grow on. And it really looked at everybody as being, you know, a container of strength. And we have the ability to pour into that container and then build yourself into the person that you want to be. But after, you know, World War I and World War II, our veterans were coming home with what they called shell shock, later to be called post-traumatic stress disorder. And so many people were coming home with, you know, emotional and psychological wounds that there was basically a movement to fund research and development of treatment for psychological stuff, specifically for military veterans. And so the VA basically had a whole bunch of grants, and psychologists realized they could make money off of these grants. And so they put a whole bunch of work into making a medical model for psychology. And so the medical model for psychology had some good stuff and some bad stuff. And so the good things were that there were big understandings in therapy and mental health. There were 14 disorders that became more manageable, and new treatments were identified and developed. But there were some bad things too. Psychology became a field of victimology. And that's basically viewing, you know, people as, you know, you were hurt, or you've got a sickness. And so this sickness makes you a victim. And so practitioners went about treating the mental illness of patients within a disease framework by repairing damage. Damaged habits, damaged drives, damaged childhoods, damaged brains, and there's no prevention of mental illness. And so let's flesh this out for a second. The disease model basically breaks down, you know, is your damage, you know, you've got a habit that is not helpful. Do you have a drive that's not helpful? Maybe your childhood was negatively impacted by bad events. Maybe you've received a wound in your brain and that's caused psychological impairment. And so the other thing is there's not a way to prevent mental illness. And so these are some of the bad stuff about making psychology a disease-based thing. And so positive psychology is not that. Psychology is not just the study of pathology or weakness or damage. It's the study of strength and virtue. And so the strength and virtue stuff is what positive psychology is about. It's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about nurturing what is best. Positive psychology is focused on nurturing strengths that you already have. Psychology is not just a branch of medicine concerned with illness or health. It's much larger. It's about work, education, insight, love, growth, and play. And so hopefully in this little thing here, you'll see our weekly plan is focused on work, play, fit, and push. So positive psychology, it's about work. It's also about education, insight, love, growth, and play. So play is right there. Growth is part of a push thing. And the fit, you know, you're going to see a whole lot of self-care type things, and those are what fit is about. It's not just about exercise, it's whatever you do for wellness. So it's the difference between being proactive and reactive. You can't find happiness by assigning power to things outside of your control. And so if you've been hurt as a kid, you can't control that. And if you give power to that, it's not going to be a viable treatment if you're just, you know, I was hurt as a kid. Well, so we need, yes, that is a very, very valid thing. And that's my favorite thing to work on. I am literally a trauma therapist for kids. But if we ascribe all of the power and control to our history, then we're going to be very limited in our ability to identify and develop a treatment plan. Because if we are stuck in, I'm this way because of how I was treated, you may very accurately define the problem. But a diagnosis is not treatment. Treatment is a very different thing. Treatment is how we're getting from point A to point B. And so because I was hurt as a kid, I'm going to do these positive growing things because I'm worth a positive outlook and I'm worth growth. And so my treatment is based on my positive stuff. And so we tap into that. So a positive psychology treatment plan would sit with a client and say, tell me about yourself. What do you do for fun? What do you enjoy doing? What are your strengths? What do you love? Who do you have that can partner with you in your life to have fun, to do fun things? What are the strengths that we have in your availability to build a plan about growth? Not about identifying a problem, but about identifying positive stuff in your life. And so that's what a positive psychology treatment plan would be looking at. Make sense? I was giving you guys a little thing about schizophrenia and the kids that I had misdiagnosed. The misdiagnosis was because there were people who were therapists before me who were credentialed as experts in diagnosing problems. What they didn't do was view those kids as like regular kids. Because the thing that the kids were experiencing was not schizophrenic symptoms. It was a very different thing. And it's a very normal thing. And it's a thing that you and I do all the time. And so without getting too far into it, you know, one of the things that a counselor will ask is, do you hear voices? And if a kid says yes, there's a 50-50 chance that the counselor is going to say that since this kid hears voices, the kid's schizophrenic. This didn't just happen once. These are the kids that I received as my clients over and over and over again. But they did not ask the kids, are those voices inside your mind or outside your mind? That's a very, very big indicator of a difference. Because those kids answered, yes, I hear voices. Of course they hear voices. Everybody has an internal dialogue. Sometimes our internal dialogue is different voices. And so therapists diagnosed my kids with schizophrenia because they heard voices, but they did not have what schizophrenia requires, which is outside your mind voices. And so They basically said that these kids were having psychotic symptoms for something that you and I experience as regular people every day. So anyway, without getting into the whole 3-hour version of that lecture, I was able to help these kids get way better in a very, very short period of time by just believing that the kids were okay. And knowing that my training was based on what's the difference between a history of abuse instead of psychotic symptoms. And so a history of abuse is not what causes psychotic symptoms. A history of abuse is what causes those inside voices to have different sounds. I don't know if that makes any sense to you or if it means anything, but it's a huge deal when it comes down to how a kid with a trauma history is diagnosed with a psychotic history instead. And so this all comes down to the difference between psychology and positive psychology. How you view the client greatly determines how you view diagnosing. And so by believing that the kids were able to tell me what they were experiencing, I was able to view them with their personal strengths instead of viewing my awesomeness as though that was a thing, as justification for why I get to diagnose them with what I'm comfortable diagnosing. And that's the difference between psychology and positive psychology. I'll get off my soapbox now. All right, you guys with me still? Let me get a sip of my water. All right. So there's two guys we're going to cover real quick. The first one is Martin Seligman. Dr. Seligman, he is the main guy behind the positive psychology content that we teach. He was the president of the American Psychological Association. He has a whole lot of stuff on the internet that you can find out about positive psychology through him. And so he's the guy that came up with the model we're going to talk to you about in a minute called the PERMA model. And so Seligman is basically a Mr. Positive Psychology when it comes down to the first bit of it. He was the main advocate for positive psychology. And you'll see him all over the place. Next is Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. How that name equals that pronunciation is beyond me, but that's what it is. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And he is the guy who is connected with the concept of flow. And so we're going to talk about flow next. And so he's the guy that we study for flow. And so guess who? The answer is Dr. Csikszentmihalyi. The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. So Dr. Csikszentmihalyi said that. And he said it about flow. Flow is a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that people will continue to do it, even at great cost, for the sheer sake of doing it. So flow is it's a subconscious state. It's when what you're doing is so fun that you want to just be doing that thing. It's where you find genuine satisfaction. Have you ever felt a sense of timelessness or complete absorption in a task? Strength, alertness, effortless control? That's flow. Ever play a video game for so long that you guys like realize you missed a meal? or it's been like 4 hours and it seems like it's been 1 hour. Too many times, right? Yep. So when you experience that loss in time, that's flow. And how do you like lose time? Like that's a thing, right? You can be doing something and like totally lose out on time. You ever wonder where you've been when you lost time? You've been right there. But like, it's just a weird thing to totally look back and realize I've been so caught up in this that I've totally checked out. Will this be posted as an archive? Yes, it'll be posted by noon tomorrow, hopefully, as a recording. Yep. So there's 9 elements of flow. There's clear goals every step of the way. There's immediate feedback to your actions. There's a balance between skills and challenges. It's like when you're playing a video game and you have like the sequence, like for Mario Brothers, like you gotta like memorize the sequence for how and when to jump and how and when to hit a certain button, or else if you don't do it at the right time, Mario like falls on spikes, right? And so you gotta play it over and over and over again to get the rhythm of what the movements on the controller are supposed to be. And when you have practiced it, you know what those are. And so it's flow when you have the ability to get Mario from the beginning to the very end. Or for me playing the drums, when I would sit down and try to, learn something new, it would not sound very good and I would not hit a flow state. But after practicing for a while and getting really good, I could totally space out and lose time, even though I'm playing this complicated thing. And so that's because the challenges and the skills were balanced. And you don't reach that state until you've practiced a lot. And so that's how you know you've hit flow. It's how you know you've practiced and gotten good at something. So your actions and awareness are merged. Distractions are excluded from your awareness. There's no worry of failure. Your self-consciousness disappears. Your sense of time becomes distorted. And the activity becomes its own reward. And so these are the 9 elements of flow. Those 9 elements really kind of funnel down into 3 main things: goals, balance, and feedback. And so when your goals, balance, and feedback are all at an optimum state, that's when you can experience flow. When your goals are met and there's a balance between your challenge and skills and you immediately get confirmation, that's when you can achieve flow. And so basically, I think about this as being things that I have practiced. And so when I'm, not proficient at something, it's not surprising to me when I am learning that skill, but I'm not yet a master of that skill. I don't achieve flow. But I love zoning out once I've gotten good at something. And so I know that I've gotten good enough at it when I have experienced that state of losing time or like totally getting caught up in it. How about you guys? When have you experienced flow? I see you guys are talking about Super Mario Brothers. Opened up a can of worms there. Practicing bass, yep. Guitar practice, listening to music, going on stage, yeah. Doing art, yep. Singing, gaming, yep. Driving, that's my favorite. Listening to music, drum practice, video games, yep. Typically, it's those things that require you to practice at them, or something that someone else does for you that you're invited to participate in, like music or reading a book. Very cool. Yeah. All right, good. For the sake of time, ooh, learning Japanese, cool. Let's move on. What does this whole idea of wellness mean? What is wellness or well-being? A healthy state of mind. Ooh, homeostasis. Mental fortitude. Nice. Being physically and mentally stable. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's being okay, right? One way or another. Mental health. Yep. Yeah. I try to make it super complicated, and I say it's about being okay. That's how I roll. Because then I have to go explain the actual content. It makes it easier whenever I can call it something simple first. So Martin Seligman, you know, the guy that we've brought up in the first part of this set of slides, he wrote a book, and it's basically about the PERMA model. And so it's how can you plan to stay well? How do you have wellness as part of what you do all the time? So there's this acronym, and it is PERMA. And I'm going to just go through real quick, and this will help us sort of wind down and finish up here. And this is basically how you stay happy or how you stay well. And so it's an acronym of positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And so just like we said, it's about being okay. You'll find this is generally pretty obvious stuff when it really gets right down to it. The first thing to be long-term happy is every day you have to have some positive emotion in your life. Positive emotions are an essential part of our well-being. Happy people look back on the past with gladness, they look to the future with hope, and they enjoy and cherish the present. And so in order to be happy long-term, you got to have positive emotion in your life. Fairly obvious statement, right? In order to be happy, you got to have a positive emotion. But really, this is getting down to it on a moment-by-moment basis. And having a positive emotion can help you be centered in not just the past and the present, but it also helps you look forward to the future. Next is engagement. When we focus on doing the things we truly enjoy and care about, we can begin to engage completely with the present moment and enter the state of being known as flow. So in order to achieve flow, you've got to be engaged in the present moment. Can't play Super Mario Brothers right now based on what you did in the past. You've got to be able to focus on what you're doing right now and play the game now, because it's the game now that you're playing that determines whether or not you're going to experience flow. So being fully engaged in the moment is what brings happiness to your life. If you're constantly thinking about the past or the future, you're going to miss out on right now. Yep. Trevor, that's cool. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Very good. Next is relationships. Everyone needs someone. We enhance our well-being and share it with others by building strong relationships with the people around us, family, friends, coworkers, and neighbors. In order to be happy, relationships are a part of it. Meaning, we're at our best when we dedicate time to something greater than ourselves. It can be religious faith, community work, family, politics, a charity, a professional or a creative goal. In order to be happy, there's got to be some meaning in your life that you are pursuing. And last, we have accomplishment. Everybody needs to win. To achieve well-being and happiness, we must be able to look back on our lives with a sense of accomplishment. I did it, and I did it well. in order to be happy, you want to feel like the things you do matter. And so accomplishment is one of the things that you have to have in order to feel like your life has long-term consequence or happiness. So let's wrap it up with a video real quick. This is a little wellness video. I'm going to put this in the chat box, and I know that you guys might need to copy and paste it, but go watch this video real quick, and when you're done, let me know. All right, looks like you guys are finishing up. All right, so we hit flow and positive psychology and wellness and PERMA. All right. Do you guys have any questions? So here's what we'll do. It is 3:41 in Orlando. I'm going to hang out for a couple of minutes if you guys want to take a look over the directions for the discussion board or your quests. If you have any questions about the lecture material or anything you want to know, I'm going to be around for a couple of minutes if you'd like to ask. If you're ready to go, you are free to go. We will be done. I hope you guys enjoyed the lecture. Hope you got something out of it. Hope I was helpful for you as you get ready to work on your week 2 quests in your discussion board. Thank you guys for coming. Like I said, I'll be here for a couple minutes if you'd like to ask a question in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. Thank you guys for coming. Have a great day.